we did a festival in Slovakia that we flew out to, and it was like on an airfield. We played at like a ridiculous time, like 1 o'clock in the morning. And all day we're like, what's happening? We're riding our bikes on the path, and it was just like, what is this? We're in Slovakia. What are we doing? We're from all.
Today we're with Lydia Palmeira, who's the bass player for four-piece indie band Life. Previously of Runoffthestatic and Henrietta Lacks as well.
Yeah.
Lydia is an important figure within Hull's community. Works for Type Slowly and helps run many events as well as play them. Our first question I'm going to leave with Mac, I think, Lydia.
Okay.
On International Women's Day as well, it's an honour to have you here this evening.
I can't thank you enough.
Being an inspirational woman on the local music scene. What we want to ask, we're going to start with my question. My question is, do you remember first picking up an instrument, Lydia? And what was your first performance?
Yeah. So my mum was key to getting me into music, really. She encouraged me with everything. Got us into piano lessons. I picked up cello when I was in primary school. And then I think I discovered Green Day and decided I want to play drums. So I played drums. I think my first performance was Year 6 assembly. We did Wake Me Up When September Ends. I'm sure it was disastrous, but it was a fun. Yeah, I think that was the first time I ever performed in front of people.
And the final part of this question is, where did you find the confidence to get up on a stage in the first place? Where did it come from?
I don't know really. I've done it a lot, I guess. I think before I ever got on stage, I played in front of people, or played in jams with other people, and just played music a lot. And so the transition to go from that to going on stage felt quite natural, because nobody was,
Was it a case of sort of mixing within those circles, in that sort of music community, and then?
I think everything is just building on step by step, isn't it? So you build it up slowly, and you do this, and then that leads to that, and then who knows where it gets you, really. So just.
That's great. That's great, Lydia. That's my question.
Sorry.
I believe I've got the next one, Lydia. You've already mentioned one of them with Green Day, but I was going to ask some of your musical heroes were when you first started, and if they've changed at all over time.
Oh yeah, of course it's changed over time. Like I remember I volunteered for Belly Folk Festival when I was a teenager, just as I was into all these punk and rock bands, and it was Billy Bragg and Buzzcocks headlining on the day after day, and I remember seeing those. I think that was my first live music experience. It was amazing. So from there I became obsessed with punk and all the business. So stuff like Rancid and Tim Armstrong's bass lines and Crass and Clash and all that. But I've always been into all sorts, really. Yeah, I've had my mum raised me on Bob Dylan, guitar, personally I like to play guitar and stuff. And like Stevie Wonders and Carole King and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, and I just, yeah.
Very nice.
Amazing.
I shall pass on to Dan now, who's got the next one.
I was trying to find a link into my. You've handled a link very well, Joe. I haven't got one. So this is a tricky question, I guess. But do you think it's harder to get started in bands if you're not male? If so, can you imagine any obstacles that women and non-binary people face that men perhaps don't realise when starting bands or being around bands? Have you encountered any of these and sort of combated any of them? Is there something that happens weekly that sort of you realise is an issue and something that we need to work on as a society, really, within the music industry, I guess?
Well, gender disparity, I don't think it is an issue, and it is an obstacle for more women getting into music and playing live music. But I don't think there's so many there's so many people playing music and getting into it and learning that struggle to make that step onto playing in bands and stuff. And I think it is harder for women because you got to be a bit shit first. You got to be allowed to be a bit shit and play, and that'd be okay. And that's because that is one of the most fun aspects of playing live music, and is learning how to get better over time and developing those kind of relationships with music and people. So if you're not allowed that like chance to just like be a bit shit, have a good time and get a bit better, I just think sometimes men don't have that barrier or don't get judged on the same way of that barrier.
Yeah.
So I think I'm guilty of myself as well sometimes, where you see a female musician and either you love them or you hate them, but you judge them differently, and I think that's a real hard thing to get up to. You notice when it's happening to you, and it's hard to catch yourself out of it as well. So the more people do it and get into it, it's good and it's exciting.
Yeah, you make a real good point. I think you can be a rubbish male musician and nobody will bat an eyelid, but the pressure's already there. If you're probably if you're a female getting on the stage, it's sort of expected that the divide's pretty big. Either you're amazing or not very good, and you're judged a lot more.
Not even that there's a divide. It's like just having that pressure to be better. Yeah. That's a bad one. Yeah.
Nice, good. So that's
I've tried to like never let it get to me and stuff, because there's no point. It's just you just fucking have fun, right? So it's like.
Is it helped from your sort of background? I guess the bands that you started with, and maybe the punk ethos being there, and you all learning together. It seemed like Runoffthestatic just kept going together as a unit, and you all learned together at the same time.
I'm so fortunate to have like started doing it very young, and to be around those people who just all in it together, all learning and wanting just to be, just to have fun with it and not care about those other things, because we need to do this for us, not to prove anything to anyone. So I love them. Yeah.
Great attitude. Nice. I was just going rogue a little bit, Dan. Like over the years of us doing Sesh in the city, we've only come across sort of like the one all-girl group, two. Runoffthestatic and maybe the Ivy Sins, I think, was another all-girl group that we had in the city.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever come to
years. But why do you think we lack all-girl groups in Hull and in general in the industry itself?
I think all-girl groups are like a. Don't get me wrong, I wish there was more, because it brings in a whole different dynamic in terms of how you write music and play when you have a fully female dynamic. But I don't think that needs to be as important as that's how you become. You could do the music if you're not comfortable doing it that way. I've always been in bands of boys and girls, and it's been great, and I've loved that dynamic as well. It's great. But yeah, so I think having the whole girl band thing is either happens or it doesn't, and you create those moments organically, right? But I'm obsessed with Riot Girl and all those things, and that kind of female solidarity, those kind of groups. Yeah. I would love to see more of that within a local scene. Yeah,
I'd like to see that too, very much so. I feel we are lacking. Sort of all girl groups, especially in this region, and just generally like across the board, really. I mean, there's been a big campaign over the last sort of 3 or 4 years about readdressing the gender balance within the music industry.
Yeah. But, the ways that some festivals have come out, and I think Glastonbury is the massive one that was like, we're doing 50%, because it can come from those top down places where if you see it, then it encourages more to do it. And I think having that I surround myself with I sort out female focused kind of music with Riot Girl and so many bands, and I surround myself with it, and I think that made it easier for me to accept it. That's the thing. Even though I didn't see it directly in front of me in the scene in Hull, I saw it. I sorted it out, and so it's there. It's there. It lives, and it just will come down to our neck of the woods, and it'll be all right.
I think we find that with the festival every year. We always have to sort of import from outside, really, to bring a higher.
And that's a good thing too.
Yeah, of course it is. But it'd be nice to sort of bring it in from within as well. Hopefully these bands that we import in will inspire, some of the kids and some of the girls out there in the city to actually pick up instruments and start thinking outside the box and maybe, performing a little bit more post-festival. I mean, that's the idea. We bring in these girl bands from outside to try and inspire, from within. And it'd be great to have an all-girl group in the city itself. As I mentioned at the beginning, you're a huge inspiration to many females in the city for what you're doing with life at the moment and what you've done in the past with Henrietta Lacks and Runoffthestatic. So,
you guys do a great thing.
Women on the music scene, most definitely.
Yeah, well, you guys have always done a great thing for fostering talent in myself and so many of us in the city. So, yeah.
I think Joe's got a question.
Yeah, we've obviously just touched on a couple of your previous bands. I was just wondering how you found the transition of joining life with them, already being sort of an experienced and established band. And did you have to adapt your playing style at all compared to what other bands you played in previously?
Yeah, I was thrown in the deep end a little bit with it, but I really relished that experience and opportunity because they are just the loveliest, most open and honest people and I think I just had to step up. I saw what they were doing and how they conducted themselves with professionalism but also with enjoyment and stuff. But yeah, and so I saw that and I'm trying to make my best to make it happen in that. But I think fundamentally when we got in the room and started rehearsing, it was just another punk band. I mean that in the nicest way. It was just having fun playing music, and that was the best. So, and they still are in the room playing music. So it's very good.
Yeah. I guess how did you find sort of stepping up the size of venues? What you were playing? Did you come naturally to that, or was that a bit of a jump?
I think I just didn't think about it in the moment and just started I think my second gig with life was 53 Degrees North. So that was Zebedee's Yard and that was 2,000 people and that was the most I've ever played to at that point. But in the moment you're just playing with 3 other people in a very loud sound system and that's all it is. And that's it. So, I had to get better at bass playing. That's for certain when I joined life, but in a very different way to in the punk bands you're doing fun licks and you're doing big refs and big energy and doing what you can do but to actually learn what tone is and how to get good tone and all these things really it's been a learning process and it still is, but I've enjoyed being getting on the money with Big Tight and writing songs with structures and all that thing is great.
I'm gonna leave. I was gonna leave room for you to do a tedious link now, Dan. There you go.
Great, that's linked me in brilliantly, that has. So I was just thinking more stylistically, I'm really glad that you mentioned 53 Degrees North as well. Because I don't know if you remember, but you had to go through the pain of playing some of the Bet Bloom shows in between sort of the ends.
They were great. They were so much fun.
But but I remember watching you at 53 Degrees North and the transition in, you just looked like the coolest bass player in the entire world, in a different way to the coolest bass player in the world from before. So you had sort of a pop punk atmosphere, like I said, and I suppose that came through the music, but it was like watching a different Lydia, that 53 Degrees North.
I'm just generally when I perform do become not a different person, but a different aspect of myself. And I think that's why
It definitely came across that gig. Is it something that stylistically you think about with a band like Life, that just everything seems so on point? It feels like a natural thing from, again, because it's in that punk category where that stuff does come naturally, but is it sort of a conscious decision? Is it good to think about that when you're in a band? How much does that come into play, in terms of press shots, in terms of being on stage? Is that something you as a band talk about at all?
I think, yeah, when coming into Life, I learned how much we talk about these kind of things, the bigger picture. And yeah, but it's something we talk about, but not in a direct sense. Like, we're going to do this because that one, like, look us like this and look good for this. It's more like we tell stories and retell the stories of how we got, what we're doing, how we got there. Stu's been doing this for so long and all these things, and we tell and retell the stories, and that really directs who we are now, and I guess informs our sense of place of where we are right now. So therefore we can inform ourselves of how we conduct ourselves going forward as we change and evolve, kind of thing. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
We tell and retell the stories in the back of the van on a long drive. It becomes like part of your literature, as it were, and that kind of develops its own sense. So, but
that perfectly links to me, really. It's like the next question. It still involves Life. Obviously, over since the time of you joining Life, you've got up to some incredible escapades and adventures, I'm sure. And I was going to ask, the boys want to know as well, what have been your highlights since joining Life?
Definitely just the opportunity to write and produce music with great people, working with Luke Smith in a studio, and his attitude and outlook in terms of how you create music is wonderful, and so I've learned a lot from that, and it's been such a great experience. And the highlight of doing that in the studio is great, but of course, like the tours and things we got to do, the Idols tour, the festivals, and Jenny Bethlehem, like all these little things that have gone in a whirlwind, and they've all been so good. Just and long drives and just good people. I mean,
get to South by Southwest. Did you do South by Southwest?
No, we scrambled our last flight. We scrambled our last flight to New York just before the pandemic hit. But so it's okay. It's okay. I've had a year to get over the fact that it's okay.
It might be a daft question because I'm not an artist so much. Well, I'm not an artist, but do you prefer the studio work to actual gigging? Do you prefer your time in the studio more so than you do on stage?
I think they're so very completely different animals that feed each other in many different ways. I love touring. I love gigging because when I get on stage, I've become, not personally, but it's the most time where I feel most in the moment, but you also get that kind of feeling when you nail a take.
Yeah.
So it's just cultivating that moment in different ways.
For me, you've always come across really joyful when you're playing. You're always a joy to watch. When you're playing live, you look as if you're really enjoying it. And
because I am. I really do enjoy it more than anything, and I miss it dearly. So,
can you give us one standout gig? One gig that just wow, just blew you away, where you had to pinch yourself when you come off stage?
We did a festival in Slovakia that we flew out to, and it was on an airfield. We played at a ridiculous time, 1:00 in the morning, and all day we're what's happening? We're riding our bikes on the path, and it was just what is this? We're in Slovakia, what are we doing? We're from Hull. And then we got on stage, and it's it was three quarters, and they had this massive Ferris wheel right on the opposite of the stage that was just lighting up, and it was just an insane show. And it was really one of those what the hell moments. So
yeah, superb. You deserve it. You truly deserve it. Well, that's my question. I think Dan's got one more, I believe, or Joe has.
I've got I'm going to add a mystery question, if that's all right. So you mentioned, the joy of writing with Life. Can you just take us through how a standard Life song comes about and how each member sort of contributes, and then how a producer contributes? Because for me, when I hear a Life song, it feels like a Life song that you've from start to finish you've made. But obviously, does a producer like Luke Smith play a pivotal role for a band like Life?
So with this last album we recorded last September, which hasn't come out yet, and we're still working on it's getting mixed right now, which is really exciting. So we had the lockdown happen, and we just kind of focused our energies on writing, which was nice. I don't think we would have written the album we did without being locked down. We were really fortunate to have the time and the space over the summer to do it, even though there was never enough time and never enough space to write those songs. It comes out in lots of ways. Mick does a lot of the early demos. He's an amazing songwriter in terms of his ear for like putting voices together and a lot of it. We just get it in a room, and this time around, so it's just getting that idea in a room and hashing it out again and again, trying a million different variations and to see what lands and what sticks. Then we had the demos. This time Luke came up to Hull for a week. We did pre-production with him in Hull, up in our room in Chocolate. And that was really nice because he came in for a week and basically ripped apart everything we'd done for the past 6 months. And the next week we were in the studio and having to do it all. But the way he approached that was like, you need to get back to the core of the song. Like, he took that nugget and exploded it out and made it back into a Life song, which is, yeah. He just kept us to keep it real, really. Make us remember where we're from and why we're doing this. So that's what the producer does. And as well as just be like, I think you can play that better though. So it was an amazing time.
Great. So what can we expect from the new Life album in contrast to previous? I saw Stu was begging and borrowing all sorts of different equipment to have a play over last year for sounds and stuff. So what can we expect from the next one?
Yeah, we went digging. We called in every favour to just fill up the old pads van with stuff of gear that we could play with. This album, I'm not sure what it is because it's still in process, but it's different, it's more mature, it's something beautiful, which I don't think I'd ever create something beautiful. I know that sounds a bit pretentious. I don't hope it's not does sound too pretentious that, but yeah, I think I'm really excited to see how it goes.
Brilliant. Have either of you got any more questions, Mac?
Yeah, I was going to say, what's the first gig back, Lydia, for Life? Do you know what the gig back is?
We're still working it out, but I know that we're doing the Adelphi live stream next week, so we're going to do some songs on free on the Adelphi to Hull and back with some bands at Nottingham.
Brilliant.
And hopefully we'll be back in autumn with full tour, and hopefully finally get to play Hull again, since last gig we did in Hull was the Sesh in 2019, and that was one of my favourite gigs I've ever done as well.
Oh wow, thank you.
Yeah.
Well, it's always a joy having you play at the Sesh.
Yeah, really
whether
lovely
it's the Polar Bear or whether it's on the festival stage.
Yeah. I'm just excited to get out and come to gigs again and experience that again. So from both sides, definitely.
Yeah,
I haven't seen the new venue as well, Mac.
Oh, look forward to having you down there.
No, definitely.
No, that's great.
Well, I think that's it. Yeah. Amazing. Thank you very much, Lydia. That's some real good answers there, I think. So, yeah, lovely stuff.